I do apologize. First, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join me. I just did part of this without hitting the record button. So, anyways, we're gonna try something a little different. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm just gonna go. I have some notes here. I kind of want to cover this. We'll see how well it does. I'm gonna put it up on both YouTube and Rumble, and I know YouTube doesn't like it when I say that word. So, oh well. Let me start by saying I'm 54 years old. I remember 1976. I remember being very proud of my country. As a matter of fact, it was that pride that motivated me to enlist in the military. But I do remember one thing that separated America and kept America being America is we had the Constitution. The Constitution would last as long as we had rule of law. And now that we no longer have rule of law, I'm a bit worried. Joseph R. Biden will start World War III in an attempt to keep hold of power and have a second term as president. Because Lord help us if this man gets a second term, it will be no holds barred on some of the things he's already done, including attempting to jail a political rival. We'll get into that. We'll get into a couple other things. We're going to look at the 34. Please feel free to leave your comments down below. If you haven't already, give me a follow, a thumbs up. Let's go ahead and get started. Because I'm not a lawyer, I'm an accountant. I've been an accountant for a long time. One of the few things that accountants, doctors, and lawyers have in common is we have a special jargon or a special language. We also, if we did good in school, learned how to do research, which is very important for all three professions if you actually want to be successful. What I want to start with is all 34 counts. Now, isn't it odd with all 34 counts? There's no plea deal. There's no bargaining down. I mean, usually with something like this, even Hunter Biden, he was going to plead guilty to the gun charges, and for that, all of the tax crimes were going to be dropped. Therefore, he couldn't be prosecuted for the tax, and the tax was about as bad as being in possession. But, he's not in possession of firearms while in possession of drugs, which is a minimum 20-year mandatory sentence. It's part of the not just two-party system, but the two-tiered justice system that we have here in America. Each one of Trump's 34 is a misdemeanor, a business misdemeanor, based on the fact that he wrote a check to an attorney for legal services rendered. Somebody decided that actually wasn't what Trump intended to do, so that he intended to actually pay Michael Cohen. Now, mind you, this is not proven, but he's been found guilty of. If you own a business in New York, you need to get out. Because if they can prosecute Trump for what is basically a misdemeanor accounting error and threaten to throw him in jail, imagine what they can do to you, especially if you upset somebody. Now, as I was saying, each of those 34 is a payment for legal services rendered. We'll get into the interesting aspect of Michael Cohen on the stand, but it's not one time, okay, boom, or one big thing. Each time he made a payment to Michael Cohen, that's one of those misdemeanors. They're state misdemeanors. They're not even felonies normally. However, they've been charged as felonies in order to extend the statute of limitations, because technically the statute of limitations on these was only for about a year. The Federal Exchange Commission decided not to do it. Even Alvin Bragg at one time decided not to do it, until oddly enough, Trump announced he was going to run for president. When the minute he announced that within 2 months a grand jury was ready to have him indicted on these charges that Alvin Bragg refused to indict him on previously. Conspiracy theory? I don't know. God doesn't play dice either. So, anyways, each one of those is an accounting error, a misdemeanor accounting error, made into a federal charge so that Alvin Bragg could prosecute past the statute of limitations and then turn around at the same time and be able to have Biden say, well, it's not a federal case, it's a state case. It's not even really a state case. It's a county case in Manhattan. Now, I want to point out something really interesting. Trump could not get a change of judge, nor could he get, and this is a judge that should have recused themselves. I believe I might go into that. I'm sure we've all heard about it. If you haven't, please leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to make a video about it. But he should have recused himself, and he chose not to. Defense wasn't really allowed to bring out any witnesses. Trump was under an unconstitutional gag order, allowed him not to be able to confront or talk to, basically took away his Fifth Amendment rights, this gag order. But everybody's okay with it. So with him being a misdemeanor, they had to make it up to a federal, but it's only county. This is why Biden can say he has nothing to do with this, which we all understand to be a complete and utter lie. Now, Michael Cohen, one of the main witnesses, who pled guilty to perjury, mind you, so lying on the witness stand, yet he was put up there as a witness, not a hostile witness either. He pled guilty for the ability, well, he was also found guilty, but him, like a couple others, pled guilty in order to be able to testify against Trump, intending to commit a crime. And they know he was intending to commit the crime because they pled guilty to the crime that he didn't commit. This is why this whole case should have been thrown out. We already know the Supreme Court ain't going to touch it. They didn't touch the election laws. They ain't going to touch this. Why? Well, I'll get into that here very shortly. The Election Commission said no, they weren't going to do it. Bragg said he wasn't going to touch it. I believe Biden actually, and I don't have a clip of it, but Biden actually also sat there and said, if you do not respect the judgment of this case, then you are not for the rule of law. This man has said some pretty warped things lately. Like when he was asked about Trump accusing him of using the legal system against him. And Biden turns and just smiles. We all know that he's a very vindictive man. He yells and screams. He's a horrible leader. We all remember the 90s. Well, I do. I was living in it. Had a couple of kids born then during the 90s. Anyways, then we had this president named Clinton. What did Clinton do? Clinton paid $850,000 in hush money. And not to Monica Lewinsky, who he sat there and perjured himself saying, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, which of course we find out he did. Lying like a mother. He paid her not Monica, the other chick, $850,000 while president as hush money. Why is he not in jail? Same thing Trump supposedly did. Now, mind you, Trump didn't do it either. Cohen did it for Trump because Cohen is trying to be Trump's fixer, and Trump never told him to do it. Already seeing some suspicion in this. Oh, yeah. By the way, do we all remember that Clinton was impeached the last 6 months of his presidency? And what did he do? He stayed in office. Everybody wants to blame Obama, but honestly, it started with Clinton. And his refusal to leave after he was impeached. Lawfully impeached. But everybody still praises him like he's a president. They don't address him as Mr. Clinton. It's President Clinton. $850,000 to a woman he sexually harassed. Oh yeah, and the $850,000, unlike the supposed 34 payments, to Trump that Trump did, this was one great big check. I remember they had a big press conference talking about it. Seems like everybody else has forgotten. And again, so since Trump hasn't been convicted of another crime yet, they had to bring in Trump's associates who pled guilty to testify against Trump, saying, well, he intended to do it, that's why we pled guilty. Do we need proof he did it? No, but, it's a jury of his peers. Where did they find 12 presidents? New Yorkers aren't his peers. He lives in Florida. Why not a change of jurisdiction? Dude named O.J. Simpson, in his original case, was going to be heard in, Anaheim, where it was like 80% Republican and mostly white. And they had a change of venue. And they changed it to South LA, where it's like 80% Democrat, 90% Democrat, and mainly black for a jury pool. I'm sure that had no way affected the case, but still made it a jury of the president's peers. Were these people business owners? No, they're just 12 Democrats. So they use these associates pleading guilty to say Trump had the intent of committing a crime because nobody's found him guilty of a crime yet. Well, so much for the rule of law there. So this is also the other neat thing because it's a It's a state law. It's a state case wrapped in supposedly a felony, prosecuted on the state level. Trump goes to a state penitentiary and therefore cannot, as president, pardon himself from jail. And each of the 34 counts is anywhere from a year to 4 years per charge. So as a first-time offender, Trump is looking at 130-something years for a first-time offender for something that's a misdemeanor. Damn, where's the drugs? No drugs? I'm failing to see how this is even fair when you have Obama bombing kids, using drones without the American population. You know who actually floated the gay marriage thing? According to Obama, Biden initially, as vice president, floated the gay marriage thing. Interesting. But on that note, at the moment, I'd like to know about the dead body at Obama's house or his murdered cook. Either of those I'd like to have properly investigated. Now we get on to the fun stuff. No one being above the law, of course, is a quote from Mr. Biden. Several other people at the moment. No one is above the law. And justice was served when they found Trump guilty on all 34 counts of business misconduct. It's hard to say, really. I mean, like I said, it's an accounting error. He made 34 payments to his attorney for legal services rendered. Each one of those was Trump intending to, quote unquote, cook his books. Trump, his first impeachment was based on the illegal falsified documents purchased by Hillary Clinton. Oh yeah, Hillary Clinton, who is guilty of treason, pretty much, very loosely handling confidential documents. Has the charges changed so she's not prosecuted? I'd like to see her prosecuted, but Trump's already said he's not going to lock these people up should he win. I think it's a grave mistake, sir. I honestly do. I also agree that it does need to stop. I think it's too late. It's like the pin on a grenade. They pulled it already. What do you do? It's just a matter of time. Well, I covered the sweetheart deal with Hunter Biden getting off, a little bit easy. That was, of course, Joe Biden's Department of Justice. No, everybody, no one is above the law. So I have a list here, just a short list of 10 ways in which Joe Biden, our glorious leader, I have to fight the urge, being just a little bit German. This is the same man who will not be prosecuted for his crimes of mishandling confidential information because he's been found by his own Department of Justice to be too senile to stand charges. Or have we all forgotten about that? In which the Department of Justice says the audio tapes cannot be released, but you can have the transcripts, because the audio tapes are considered protected. What national security information are you afraid are going to get divulged on that? Oh, the fact that he's an incompetent old man, and part of those 5 hours he brags about is he spent 2 hours shitting his pants. Here's a small list of ways we are not living in a tyranny right now. Fascism is a beautiful thing, right? In no particular order, he activated people or persons to bring federal charges, of which there was no jurisdiction, over an attempt to jail his political rival and political opponent who is currently even leading him in the polls in popularity. Activated the DOJ to target his political rivals in 3 separate jurisdictions. Number 3, the Department of Justice was used to scuttle a case against Joe Biden and a separate case against Hunter Biden. The Hunter Biden included fraud, political misconduct, tax evasion, illegal possession of a firearm, illegal possession of drugs, The possession of drugs and firearms has a 25-year sentence that his own father actually passed in the 90s, but for some reason I guess doesn't apply because he's a loving father. All hail the glorious king. So, of course, and Hunter had his first little bit of the case today. Number 4, tried to use OSHA to force 80 million Americans to get a vaccination against their will. Many people have lost their jobs in the medical industry, and those people that lost their jobs within the U.S. military have also been told that they will not be allowed back in, nor forgiven, as they were given dishonorable discharges for not taking the vaccine. I won't get into the vaccine on this particular episode. There are plenty of people who covered it. It's kind of scary. And remember, this was forced upon us, or attempted to be forced upon us, by Joe Biden. Whereas, again, it's a violation of the Constitution. Number 5, defies the Supreme Court on a regular basis. An example of Joe Biden defying the Supreme Court is the Supreme Court has ruled that the student loans are actually illegal and unconstitutional. Yet Joe Biden continues to pass more student loan debt relief without a vote, of course, as well. Number 6, Joe Biden has already claimed in front of black voters that if he loses, it's because the Republicans suppressed the vote. One of these days, I'm going to get into the history of the KKK. I think it's rather interesting, especially in view of the light of H.R. 6090. Thankfully, I do believe it won't get past the Senate. Why? Because the Senate is controlled by the Democrats. The Democrats are the Confederacy. Number 7, Joe Biden attacks the Supreme Court. He attacks their legitimacy on a regular basis, including claiming that several of the justices are corrupt. Yet we'll turn around and say that the rule of law must be obeyed by everybody. So again, when the law is convenient for Joe Biden, then yes, it is to be strictly enforced, as everybody must pay their fair share, up until it comes to the king. If this continues here in America, we're going to end up with certain families just passing the kingship between them every 8 years. A new king, but still in the same family. Number 8, he used government agencies to threaten social media. I believe we all remember about how even now, people are reluctant to talk about the vaccine. Although it is starting to come out that, yeah, the vaccine is, at best, flawed. At worst, according to court testimony, doesn't even work. For as we heard today, May 5th, 2024, Fauci has admitted that the 6-foot rule and the masks were just made up rules that he decided to make up. There's another person who needs to go to jail. If we're locking people up, let's start locking people up. Number 9, Joe Biden has attacked states for enforcing border laws. As a matter of fact, America's own border laws and the states' border laws. On multiple occasions, he's attacked states who enforce the border laws, and they choose to do it because he refuses to do what is part of his job according to the Constitution. So, another area of his job he is failing in. Number 10, Joe Biden signed 72 executive orders day one when he got into office, including one of them that Trump had, in which it lowered the price of insulin to $15. 3 years later, Joe Biden brags about how he passed laws that allowed for the lowering of insulin to $15. Out of those 72 executive orders, many of them just happen to be just like that. All he did was come in to reverse everything Trump had done. Biden has also been quoted as saying that this is the opportunity in which it shows politicians will be held accountable for their crimes. And I'm going, well, if we'd locked up Hillary Clinton and not changed the charges midstream, she'd be in jail right now, too. Both her and her husband would be in jail. Imagine the amount of trouble that would have been saved if we'd been able to stop the Bill and Hillary Clinton Foundation, in which 98% of that, 90% of the Haitian Rescue Relief funds went to the Clinton. Yes, Mr. Soros, we know where your money goes. So now we sit at a time where we actually have proof that the law will be used to lock up one's political rivals. This should be a concern for everybody in America. The corrupt have taken over. The corrupt have taken over, and we've entered the era of the tyrant here in America as opposed to the rule of law. Again, something that can be simply done. We just need honest judges who at one, go back to being afraid to have their judgments overturned, as this one either is so confident that his ruling won't be overturned, as bad as it is, as much as it breaks the rule of law, the principles, and the spirit of the Constitution. Again, we are in the era of tyranny here in America. We are gone far beyond a banana republic. Be fearful, people, for next the Muslims will take over. So in this area of tyranny, that now once you announce that you're running for public office, if you're not the correct political party, you can expect that they will throw everything they can at you to put you in jail. This has moved us into an era that places Joe Biden among a very unique group of gentlemen. A unique group that is so exclusive, it does not include the 46. So, as I said, while Alexander Hamilton is also brought up on charges of, I believe it was paying a hooker, and nothing happened to him, he wasn't jailed. So, even the precedents in the past have been to ignore it. The exclusive group of men that Joe Biden now finds himself included in include gentlemen such as Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, Mao Zedong, Joseph Stalin, Ida Iman, Fidel Castro, Pol Pot, Vladimir Putin, and as I said, Joe Biden, all fit in that nice little exclusive group of dictators who have arrested their political rivals. Most recently, of course, was Vladimir Putin. As they have an election coming up as well, he jailed his political rival, and then 3 days later, he mysteriously turned up dead. I wonder if Joe Biden's been taking notes. Mr. Trump, I pray for you, sir. So now we have Merrick Garland covering up the classified documents. He's covering up the audio tapes of the classified documents. And we will not be prosecuting Joe Biden even though he's guilty because he's too senile to stand trial. But it's okay for him to be president. And we're not going to invoke the 25th Amendment to have him removed from office because Kamala Harris is even crazier. Lovely. Most popular president of all time to be elected into office. I believe Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Pol Pot, Mao Zedong can all say the very same thing, that they were the most popular politicians at the time they were elected. And see, Biden also claimed that if you question the verdict and you are questioning the rule of law in America, I believe was his exact words. That's kind of all I put together with the 34 of what's going on. The odd fact that it's a misdemeanor that got turned into a federal case, but it's on a state level so that the feds can claim they have nothing to do with this and it's just a state matter. And at the same time saying, if you don't follow I didn't even get into the judge, and the fact that his daughter at one time actually worked for Kamala Harris's campaign. The fact that he's made heavy contributions to Joe Biden. Was he promised a cabinet position? What was this judge offered for this Chicago-style corruption to come out so boldly in the open? Again, if you're in Manhattan, though, you should probably get out. So with that said, I'm going to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules. I hope this was at least informative to some degree. Please leave a like, leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to hear from you. You can find me over on the Stormcrow Gaming, one word, over on Rumble, where I sit around and talk about current events, leadership training, whatever, while I play video games. Or I should say, with the mask of video games. So with that, video games are culture now. With that, thank you very much. God bless you. May you find the fortune that you deserve. May you find the fortune that you deserve. God bless you. And God bless America. Because boy, do we really need it. As I am afraid that Joe Biden would rather commit World War III than give up the presidency.